What's up, everyone? This is Zach with the Libertarian Party of Nebraska, and I am here with Steve Scheetz, who is running for the Libertarian National Committee Vice Chair. And this is part of our series where we are interviewing all of the serious candidates for chair and vice chair. Steve, how are you today?
Excellent, sir. Thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you for coming on. So we're going to dive right in here. I've seen you around a lot of different places in the movement. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about like where you got involved, how long you've been doing stuff, what your general experience in the Libertarian Party is?
Experience in the Libertarian Party. I started by helping a campaign out in the early '90s. I wasn't really involved until I started working with Chester County. This was right around when Michael Badnarik was running for president in 2004. At that point, I was secretary for Chester County, Pennsylvania. And then shortly thereafter, I was elected to chair of Montgomery County after I moved to Montgomery County. I was chairman of Montgomery County for 5 years. And right there, we worked a lot on education. We worked a lot on reaching out and doing activism. That to us was just like the meat and potatoes of our movement. We did do a little bit of running for office, but that kind of took a backseat to everything else. It was just what we were all interested in at the time. I ran for chairman of the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania in 2010, unsuccessfully, and that actually taught me a little bit about how to be a libertarian in the movement at the state level in Pennsylvania, because I did the same thing in 2013 successfully, and the way I ran it successfully was going around to every area in Pennsylvania that had an active group, meeting with them, speaking with them, introducing myself to them. And as it was, I conveyed what my ideas for the future of the party was, what we should be doing, where we should be going. And I worked on that in that role for 2 years after I was elected chair. Coming out of that, I was actually really grateful to leave that position. It was not that I didn't like it, but it was at the time really difficult because I was working 14, 15-hour shifts, and I thought it'd be nice to take a step back and work on my own projects. Turns out that didn't really slow me down all that much. It seemed like it would, but it didn't. And I wound up being the chairman of our delegation in 2014 at the National Convention in Columbus. I was the chairman of our delegation in 2016. But before that, I did our convention in Pennsylvania where we had a presidential debate. And I was kind of proud of that because we had Gary Johnson, we had Darrell Perry, we had Derek Michael Reed, we had Mark Allen Feldman. And everybody who was down in 2016 knows about Mark Allen Feldman's speech. But what they didn't know was just if they followed the state conventions and followed all the presidential debates, just his growth as a candidate, his growth as a man, his growth as a libertarian. When he spoke at our convention, he really rocked the house, and I was really proud to be part of that with him. After the 2016 convention, we started getting active again in a little bit of activism, a little bit of running for office. I tried running for Congress in District 8 in 2016, but I started too little too late. Because once you leave that convention in June, there's really not much time to gather 3,000 signatures that are valid. But we tried it anyway, and it was an interesting experience because it taught me that in order to run for Congress, I needed to start right then for 2018. Worked on that. I'm still working on that. It's a really, really fun show, and there's a lot of interesting things going on with that, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about vice chair. When I find things that are problems, I try and address them. New York State had this idea that Muslims need to be registered. They still do. But a group of us got together, and I helped gather this group together. We had Thomas Simmons from Outright Libertarians. We had Hashem Al-Maligi, co-founder of Muslims for Liberty. We went up to Times Square and we spoke out against homophobia and xenophobia, fear, hatred, ignorance, and most especially violence. And I was really, really proud of just doing all that and being there. And that was where I got one of my talking points, where they said, "Hey, you're a libertarian. You're for unlimited gun rights, right?" And I said to that reporter, "You know, if a gun is too dangerous in the average citizen's hands, it's much too dangerous in the hands of government." And I shut him down for 45 seconds. He didn't know what to say after that. But, fast forward, we went out to Cleveland and worked that convention when the RNC had their convention, where they nominated Trump to be president of the United States. Wow. The people there were not happy about that. The Republicans were not happy about that. And I think they basically held their nose for that entire election cycle. We also went to Philadelphia to that convention. And we had some interesting times there, like when the Westboro Baptist Church was faced off against the communists. You can't write this stuff. You really can't. It was a lot of fun, and reaching out to both Republicans, conservatives, Democrats, socialists, Green Party people. It really was gratifying to talk to them and give them some of the libertarian principles and have them give positive feedback. And that was when I came up with the idea to run for vice chair. Because, you've been on Facebook and you see these little flame wars where people just positively have to be right. It doesn't matter that the person that they're arguing against is a libertarian. It doesn't matter that they espouse the same principles. What matters is they are right on whatever nuanced position it is that they have. But my goal as a vice chair, I managed to get some people together who are all Green Party, Democrats, Republicans, communists, socialists, conservatives, right-wingers, left-wingers, libertarians. It didn't matter. I got those people together, and we protested the drone base in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. We did that not because we all had opposing points of view. It was because we all agreed that this was wrong. So we go down and we talk to these people, our libertarians, our brothers and sisters in New Orleans, the people who we should have the most in common with. What I want to do is I want to gather those people together and say, look, we may disagree on this, we may disagree on that, but there are so many things that we do agree upon. Let's find some things that we agree upon and start working and making change actually happen. That's where I'm going with the vice chair.
Your message seems to be a lot more focused on unity. That puts you in contrast with some other candidates and in kind of accordance with a few others. What do you think sets you apart from any or all of the other people who are running for this position?
In my mind, the vice chairman's race needs to be a libertarian love fest, man. Alex Merced, Arvin Vora, myself, we're all libertarians, and we all have our own ideas as to what's going to be best for the Libertarian Party. Basically, my message is what separates me from anybody else. Alex Merced has his message. His message is helping candidates, a worthy goal, a valid goal, most definitely. I can get behind that, and I intend to work with Alex Merced as much as possible. Arvin Vora really wants to try and privatize education. Well, I think we all want to privatize education. I think we all want to change the education system. And I'd like to work with him on that, if it's possible to work with him on that. He's a great dude, man. He's come to my conventions a couple times, and he spoke with our people in Pennsylvania a couple times. And I really appreciate him, and I really like him a lot. So I don't have a bad word to say about any of my opponents. It's a matter, in my mind, for libertarians in New Orleans to say what it is that's going to be best for our party. Look, we're all going to be employees, not a Libertarian Party, but of the people who elected us, libertarians across the nation. And that's our job, man. For those 2 years, we're here to work for you.
Awesome. So I'm going to put this in kind of a two-part question. What are some things that the LNC has done in the last 2 years that you really support? And what are some things that you would do differently going forward?
Well, there's a lot of things that the LNC has done that I would support. There's some things that I think a lot of people would appreciate the LNC doing more of. I know the LNC reached out and was working to help one of the candidates that was getting destroyed by the Republicans, I believe, in Nebraska, and that was they were kind of condemned for not really doing anything, but they were actually doing something, just not really so much in front of the cameras. They were doing it kind of behind the scenes. And I think maybe if I could change one aspect of the LNC, and that is to kind of broadcast what we're doing, kind of broadcast that we're all here, that we're all working, and that we're making things happen. Because I think when you're actually doing things, you lose track of the idea that maybe somebody in California, somebody in Nebraska, somebody in Oregon doesn't see what's happening in Washington, D.C., doesn't see what's happening in South Carolina. Let's bring everybody together and focus on what's actually happening, where things are changing, what's being done. If I could change anything about the LNC, it would be that.
So to kind of give a little bit of background there was contention with that issue because there wasn't a lot of communication, because I was actually the person who was kind of spearheading the communication effort from the Nebraska side of things. So I know a lot of the LNC stuff happens on like an email chain. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that there's a way that we could speed up communication, that there's a way that we could have national, like not necessarily involved, but I guess just communicating better with the affiliates? Well, are there ways that you think we could do better about that?
I believe there is. I mean, obviously, like you said, national, and I think we touched upon this in one of the threads, that, you know, when national comes in and sticks its nose in a state's business, then that state affiliate doesn't really appreciate it all that much. Yet, we want them to be there when we ask. So I think probably the best way to handle that would be just picking up the phone and talking to local representatives. I know Karen Ann Harlos, does she ever sleep? Because he seems to be working tirelessly all around the clock. And, you know, I've been up many times during the night, and she's there. She was active on Facebook 2 minutes ago. She posted something 2 minutes ago. And it seems like it's that way more often than not. Star Child, of course, he's a tireless proponent of transparency. And I think that's helpful in a big, huge way. We get everything out in the open. We get everything in a place where people are seeing what's going on. I think it's going to be helpful. But again, nothing substitutes picking up the phone and calling somebody.
Okay. So is there anything you want to kind of leave on? Any, like, I guess, make your last sales pitch here?
Last sales pitch is simply this: I'm ready and willing to work with everybody. And I think I've made that abundantly clear many times going to various state conventions and speaking there, because I wanted to sell what I want to do. And what I want to do is I want to bring people together and make things happen. Right now, we have a lot of problems in our nation, and the libertarian solution is the proper solution for many of them. The one I really want to go for is our criminal injustice system. And I believe that I can get that group that I had together to protest that drone base. You know, the Democrats, the Republicans, the Greens, the Socialists, the Communists, the Libertarians, the whole gamut, man. I can get that group together, because it doesn't matter what political persuasion you are. It doesn't matter what philosophical background you subscribe to. None of that matters. Everybody is screwed equally by the injustice system. And I believe that if we get everybody together, and it's not my solution, it's the solution of we the people, because the only way it's going to work, brother, is if we, the people, make it. And that takes everybody, not just libertarians. So when I say, and I want to get everybody together and I want to get everybody working, I mean, I want we, the people, to come up with a free market solution to everything. Let's get some policy wins, man. Let's get some issue wins between now and 2020. And I think the rest of it takes care of itself.
All right. Well, that has been a wonderful talk. So we have done 3 now, I believe. 3 vice chairs. So we have the 3 major candidates. I have one more that announced recently that we're going to have on. So thank you, Steve, for coming on and doing this talk with us. Nebraska, have a great week.
Thank you so much.